Last year, as some of you know, I had a very fascinating encounter that happened on a street corner. As I was driving home from a little Goodwill shopping, I saw a man on the street, and I had a really strong intuition to go and talk to him. And so I made a U-turn, I listened to my intuition, and we talked and talked and talked for hours on end, not necessarily that night, but the next and the next and the next, and ended up falling in love. And I learned so much from that encounter. One of the things I learned is around acceptance, many layers around acceptance. Welcome to Deep Within. On this show, we dive deep into the nervous system, emotional healing, and transformation from within the body. When I started my personal development journey, it was all in the mind, doing affirmations, visualizations, listening to endless motivational videos. And I found that this approach, without actually getting my body on board, only left me in deeper shame and distress. So this is actually how I discovered somatic body-based healing. My name is Marina Yanai Treiner, and I am the Compassionate Somatic Coach. I am gentle, sensitive, and I love deep conversations. I'm so excited and so glad you're here so we can feel like we're together in our own little bubble of deep talks. I used to be the kind of person who lived very much by the book. I had to do a set of things that made sense on paper, in an order that made sense, in a way that made sense. And obviously, this did not make any sense. It was not a logical choice. And as I would sit there with him on the street corner where he was living, I would constantly have this conversation with myself. No. That's what it sounded like. But sometimes your heart is much stronger than your mind. And that's what happened. My heart just won. It didn't ask questions. It was just very clear how I felt. And so I had to let go of all the standards of how things are supposed to be, and how I should be and what I should do. And just be in the experience, be in the moment. And so I learned at that time something that I feel like I learn again and again and again in my life, which is to listen to myself, to listen to my emotions. And after that, after some time, it became very difficult to be in connection with this man for various reasons, and I had to exit the relationship for my own sake. And I found myself fighting again and again, fighting myself and telling myself, okay, this doesn't make any sense, and I need to continue. I need to move forward. And I tried in many ways, and nothing that I did really worked. And at one point, I think I was meditating. I just realized that I have a desire. It's a palpable desire for this person, and nothing logical is changing it. And I also know and believe fully that when we're supposed to, we can move on. I was going to say I had to leave a marriage. I kind of had to, but I left a marriage almost 2 years ago now. And in that process, something I learned is that you cannot rush that decision. And you just have to allow it to unfold when you're ready. I didn't have to leave the marriage, but I left the marriage eventually, and I left it very peacefully because I was doing my inner work and I was listening to my heart and what I needed and wanted. And in this case, I found myself again in a fight with myself. And I was telling myself, you have to get over this. This makes no sense. And then I kind of chuckled and laughed because I was like, it never made sense, it never made sense. And that's what it's here to teach me. And I believe that we stay in relationships, we stick around in relationships for as long as they are teaching us something. And I must say, this incredible human being has taught me more than anyone in my entire life and continues to, even as we're not really in touch. And so now, learning and understanding that desire is just like an emotion. It's just like sadness. You can try to use your willpower and say, it's fine, I don't need to feel sad. It doesn't make sense that I feel sad. It doesn't make sense that I want this person. Nevertheless, it is real and it is happening, and we cannot fight it. So when we fight our emotions, we end up going into mental loops that are very draining and exhausting. And when we fight our desires get even stronger and needier and more attached and more exhausting. But when we let go, which sounds kind of funny to many of us, I know it did for me. Like, to me, letting go was like letting go of the person, letting go of what I want. But the reality is, now I understand, letting go is letting go of fighting against yourself. And acceptance is accepting exactly where you're at. It's accepting what you want, what you need, and what you feel in any given moment. And it's so interesting because even as someone who's extremely terrified of rejection and abandonment and leaving, in general, it's something that scares me. That fear has gone down so deeply once I practiced letting go and accepting, which looks like, this is what I feel, this is what I need, this is what I desire right now. So the clinging went down. And it makes sense when you think of a little child that really wants something. And instead of fighting the child, you don't always have to give it to them, of course, but you don't fight them. You don't tell them, you don't want that, you don't need that, you're not getting that, right? But you soften and you talk to them and you hear them out and you give them space to want what they want, even if you don't give it to them, because I'm not giving it to me right now, but I want what I want. And there is so much softening and more ease in that is very beautiful. And it's something that I teach my clients all the time. And it's a practice, even I'm so perfect. But even I, being so perfect, I still forget. And it's just so counterintuitive in our culture, but so funny to me that once I said, I still love this person so deeply. I still want to be with them. And that's where I'm at. I don't need to force myself to move forward. I don't need to force myself to love somebody else because this is reality. This is my truth. It softened me so much. It gave me so much more space in my body. And it allowed me to not feel so attached, obsessed, any of that. Because this is a practice of self-care. This is a practice of permission. This is a practice of really honoring yourself and putting yourself first, is allowing. So this is a short one. And all I want you to remember is, and practice this week, what is one thing that you want, you really want, and you're always arguing with yourself that you shouldn't want it just because you haven't been getting it. You have not been getting it in your life, so you're arguing with yourself that you shouldn't want it. And that just gets you into these dark, heavy, obsessive, exhausting loops. Can you just want it? Can you just feel the wanting? Like a very primal desire and longing. Just let yourself feel that and see what happens. Just experiment. Everything else doesn't work, right? Hasn't worked so far. So this is a huge part of what I work on with clients. And I see how, just like for me, it allows them to soften. And many times it even allows them to walk away from the thing that they want because they just soften into it And then easily they just come to see that maybe it's not right for them and they can let it go. And it doesn't feel exhausting and draining, and it doesn't activate the abandonment survival loop. Instead, they're not abandoning themselves. By choosing to honor their desire, they're not abandoning themselves. And so that abandonment survival loop is not activated. So that is what I have for you today. I think it's a very juicy, simple, beautiful practice for you to take away. I love you. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you and chat with you next week. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to this episode. If you liked it, please make sure to leave me a review so that more beautiful humans can get to this podcast, and subscribe to the show. And please do share it with a friend who would benefit. And I always love to hear from all of you on Instagram, so visit me there at marina.y.t. I share really awesome content and would love to hear your comments about the episodes. Until next time, I love you so much and I appreciate you. Have the most beautiful day.